This is my 21.3 Ergogenic Aids. So what are they? They're substances that some athletes use to improve their strength and health. That's what they're primarily used for in sport. However, many people can use their aids to improve their health as well. So for example, steroids, which are banned in sport, are given to some cancer patients as it can help destroy the cancer cells and making them more effective. And they also help to reduce allergic reactions. So in this case, steroids are prescribed, so they'll be pharmaceutical, and they are good. But many of the ergogenic aids are banned in sports, and if athletes found out, then there can be serious consequences. So like their medals and titles can be stripped, and they can also cause serious harm to their own health. So for example, Lance Armstrong, the cyclist, got caught using EPO, and his titles and medals got stripped of him. There are five main categories: pharmaceutical, physiological, mechanical, psychological and nutritional. So the 5 categories. So pharmaceutical, they are both legal and illegal drugs. So legal aids include creatine and caffeine, and illegal aids include amphetamines and anabolic steroids. Physiological are natural substances that are used to aid performance, and some of them are safe and effective. These are legal substances such as acupuncture, oxygen, sports massages. However, illegal substances include blood doping and EPO, which can lead to death. Mechanical aids are those that are used to help people to improve their performance, and they can be done through clothing, for example, compression, or through aids that you would use to simulate different environments. So that's either a treadmill or an altitude/chamber temperature chambers, and you can even get the technology that measures the heart rate and the distance that you run. Psychological aids are techniques that support the athlete's mental state in which can aid performance. So examples of that are hypnosis, imagery, music, relaxation and yoga. And nutritional products that enhance energy, performance and recovery, and so they can manipulate the fluids, carbohydrates, fats and proteins in your diet, and they can be even found in a form of tablets, liquids, bars and powders. So these are the key organisations. So you've got WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, and their main things are for code compliance monitoring, to educate people into the types of drugs and the legal and illegal ones. For science and medication, to help develop these drugs, the legal drugs, and also to have a look at the illegal ones and see what damage they're doing to others and how they can get an advantage over others. Anti-doping, athlete outreach and law enforcement. So that's if someone is taking illegal substances, then they will be able to reinforce this law and to stop them. So you've also got the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, and their aim is to encourage and support the promotion of ethics, the education of youth in sport, sports competitions. They're also there to ensure that the Olympics happens every single 4 years, and to also act against discrimination in the sporting environment. They also fight against doping, and this is to help promote a positive legacy throughout the Olympics. UK Sport are there to invest in the Olympics and the Paralympic sports, and works with its partners to deliver medals at each of these Olympic and Paralympic Games. They also try to increase the activity overseas, as well as the IOC promote sporting conduct, ethics and diversity. So NGBs are national governing bodies, and they are funded by Sport England. This funding is to help the national governing bodies to keep the nation active, to get people involved, and the new investments that have been putting into the national governing bodies are to target inactive people, make it easier for people to stay active and maintain a habit once they start exercising, and to increase the resilience of people. So the first aid that we're going to look at is beta blockers, which are a pharmaceutical aid, and these are this pharmaceutical drug which is used to decrease anxiety and is done by slowing your heart rate down, and they also block this is to block the effects of adrenaline to make you not as shaky. This is also prescribed by doctors for lots of reasons, including hypertension, angina, heart attack, heart failure and migraines, as it can help to relax you. Athletes such as archers may use this, as it will help them steady them to get an accurate shot. They are available to be prescribed by doctors, but you can buy them from other sites, which probably are a bit dodgy, but cost between $10 to $30, I've found. They have a positive effect on your fine motor control, which makes it easier for you to concentrate on a certain thing and your aim would be better. But they have a negative effect on your aerobic capacity, as it slows down the heart rate, so not as much blood and oxygen will be pumping around the body to the working muscles. And major side effects include nausea, headaches, dizziness, muscle cramps, or rapid heart flutters, because your heart's not used to it. And as of 2010, all beta blockers were banned by WADA for all Olympic sports, as it gives unfair advantages to others. This will also be useful for heptathletes in such events as a shot put. This because they need to be calm and balanced, and also in order to spin and throw the shot put. So next aid is a physiological aid, and this is creatine, and this is used to regenerate small quantities of ATP quickly, and is typically used for sprinters and weightlifters, as it only gives a short but boost. It is readily available and is relatively cheap, at about £15 to £20 per 1 kilogram, and this can also be found in tablet form as well as powders. It's not banned in sport and is legal to use, however too much can cause cramp, nausea, dizziness and diarrhoea. It has a positive effect on your muscles, as they are less prone to fatigue, so you can carry on for longer. However, the negative is that creatine causes the muscles to draw water from the rest of the body, so it can cause dehydration and cramp. This will be beneficial for heptathletes such as Jessica Ennis-Hill, especially when she was doing her 100-metre hurdles, as this will give her the boost that she needs in order to push herself to beat her opponents. So the next one is a mechanical aid, which is compression socks. And these compression socks work by using graduating compression. This is where the compression is higher, so tighter around the foot and ankle, and is lower, so the compression is looser as it moves up the calf. And this helps to fight the effect of gravity and assist the body in venous return, which is when the deoxygenated blood flows back up to the heart. It also increases the blood flow, which will decrease the rate of fatigue in the muscles, because the oxygen is able to get to the muscles and carbon dioxide taken out quicker. This is available from lots of places and range between £10 to £40, which depends on what kind of brand you get. It's good for a long distance runner, because they need lots of oxygenated blood around their body, so their muscles don't fatigue as much. And heptathletes will use this because, especially as they're doing lots of different events, they're more likely to feel fatigued than those who are only doing one. A negative of these socks is that they can be expensive, and there is actually very limited research about them working. There needs to be more research done on them as to what they do. Positive is that the socks can reduce fatigue and leg cramps. So the next one we've got is another mechanical aid, and this is altitude training. And the altitude training can cause an increase in hemoglobin volume and concentration, which will then consequently increase the amount of red blood cells in the body, which will increase the amount of oxygen that can get around the body, which can then help with aerobic performance, because the oxygen's being moved around your body. So long distance athletes would use this, as they would want to try and increase their aerobic capacity as much as they can before they race. However, this wouldn't be useful for like Jessica Ennis-Hill, as the furthest she is running is 800 metres, and that distance is now classified as a sprint. So although it might help her slightly, it won't improve her performance as much as, say, a marathon runner will. There are two ways that you can do the altitude training. So the best way is go to the country that has the high altitude, so that you can acclimatise better, as you are then in that altitude at all times. However, there are laboratories in the UK in which you can go into a simulated altitude, and this is good for sessions. However, once you come out the chamber, you're back at sea level again, and it's also very expensive for people. A positive of this is that the athlete who is competing in a country at high altitude will be able to go and train in that condition before they actually race, which will help them in their race as they will have acclimatised. And a negative means that it's normally hotter and drier conditions when there's a higher altitude, which will mean that they'll lose more water through breathing and sweating. And this means that they have to take on at least 5 litres of water per day when they're training in altitude, otherwise they might find themselves seriously dehydrated. So psychological, which is music, and this helps to focus the athletes, for the athletes to focus on a certain game or event, as it takes away the stress. And many people use it to motivate themselves and also calm down nerves before. It can be listened to anywhere if you have an iPod, and getting a music device can be expensive, but then they last a long time. And songs are about 80p per song, and the album's around £10, so it's quite cheap. And the positive of this is that the athlete can get into the right frame of mind. However, a negative is that if they listen to the wrong type of music, then it will increase your arousal level so much it will go past its peak point, and then your performance will decrease instead of having an increase. So, for example, if you're listening to calming music that is designed to help you sleep, you may not even reach your peak, and so that will lead to a decreased performance as well. It's actually illegal listening to music when competing in an event. This is mainly due to health and safety. So, for example, road cyclists aren't allowed to listen to music during their race because their team may need to talk to them, or if there's cars coming up or anything else on the road, then they won't be able to hear them, which will then cause for health and safety concerns. And some organisations may stop competitors from competing if they're doing that, and they could also stop the competitors listening to them in a warm-up as well, because that could also be dangerous. This would be useful for Jess before any event, but especially for such events as the shot put, which he isn't as strong in as her other races, as this will give her the concentration and the motivation and the confidence to try and do well in that. So last one is nutritional, and this is caffeine, and this is the most common and frequent aid that nearly everyone consumes, normally through tea or coffee or soft energy drinks. It's really quite cheap, as a cup of coffee is about £3, but then you can get a big jar to make it yourself for about £3 as well. This works by increasing your heart rate, stroke volume, and cardiac output, which can lead to increased alertness. And it is legal, but it is banned in large quantities by the International Olympic Committee and doping agencies, as it can give an unfair advantage. And the consequences are that you then can be disqualified if you have a large amount in your system. So the negatives of these is that large amounts of caffeine can be addictive and lead to side effects. And these side effects are such as headaches, cramp, anxiety, insomnia, nervousness, or nausea. The positive though is that it increases alertness, and reduces fatigue, and it also may contain some antioxidants, which would be very useful. Heptathletes will use this especially on their first day, because they have to do 4 events, so it will help them to keep alert and keep them in a good mental state. This is very important, as they have to do a 100-metre high jump, shot put, and 200-metre all in the first day, which they'll need to be alert for and full of energy for. Caffeine also gives a slight feeling of being full up, and it also encourages the body to use fat as fuel, which could be good for people for weight loss. So, for example, boxers who want to lose weight to get down to the lower category may just take on quite a lot of caffeine to help them with this. That's it.